Good morning.
Good evening. I almost
Good
fell
afternoon.
off my shirt.
Good everything.
Goodbye as I go to the hospital.
We gotta go. I'll answer the question in chat straight away before I tell everyone what was happening just before the stream began. Actually, I'm going to Declan tell you all. There's a reason we were up a little late. But what's the topic today? It's a mix of topics. It is a thinly veiled episode where we haven't actually sat down, and I'm very much looking forward to asking Declan how he is and how his life has been. But we realize there is a theme. It's sort of like game changers. And what we mean by that is like new things you can add into your games at home when you smash systems together, what to take, what to leave. And then given that D8 Dungeon Drive was on this weekend, there was so many new systems, so many new games that I hadn't seen before. And it's just chatting a little bit about that. But before we get into any of that, Declan, would you like the honors?
Well, no, because it's technically my fault.
So, I don't think so. I think it's my fault, which is good.
I'm not really sure what happened exactly. I think Ben should bring back the Tash, to be honest. Yeah, I agree with RB90. I can't even look at that side of the screen, to be honest with you. It's upsetting. So I'm just going to draw on my screen. I'm just going to draw a little mustache on my screen where you are. So you have to stay there.
Stick.
So we had a bit of a late start only because, so I had everything geared up and ready to go in OBS, and tweets were ready to go and be sent out and all the magic of that. And I was looking at my OBS setup and Ben wasn't there. So I was like, oh, okay. Ben must have like popped out to get a drink or something. And like a minute goes by and I'm like, oh, Ben's still not back. Okay. Oh, he must obviously be busy around. He's gone to the bathroom or something like that. And then another minute goes by and I can just see a shadow on Ben's wall behind him. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe he's like fixing his pants or something. So I'll just wait.
Any pants?
Oh, okay, they're nothing to fix. And I just pipped up. I was like, Ben, are you off camera waiting for me to give you your cue to come on? And to that, Ben replied, yes, he is. And that's why we're late this evening, because either I missed Ben telling me that he was going off screen, or Ben didn't tell me he was going off screen, and I just sat there like a pleb with.
Yeah, I was, you know, the way we kind of slide in, we're like, oh, we're good to go. And Declan's like, good to go. And like, yeah, just, good to go. And I said, good to go, and just rolled away. And then I heard typing. I'll come back so you can hear me on the mic. I heard typing, so I was like, oh, he must be busy with something. He'll let me know. And then just sat. Didn't have anything there. It's probably the longest I'd sat without technology in my own mind. It was terrifying.
Or freeing, like depending on where you want to put it.
So that's why I was waiting patiently, like the little theater kid I was in the wings for my cue.
It's your turn.
Maybe I'll get to go on this time.
But I will say that I'd like to blame it on it's been a while since we've had the chance to do this. What with life and everything getting in kind of, not because like getting in the way, but life happening. Because to be fair, it's actually we've been off gallivanting and tripsing around other sides of the world, so that was a load of fun. But we did take a little bit of a break, and so it's not even rust. This is just kind of the general what to expect from the show.
I wish we could say that there's going to be a drop in quality. We're consummate professionals. It's always this. We keep expectations at a medium to high.
Yeah, you can't go below the bar if you've never found the bar. So, like, that's the way I think we should be approaching this from here on out.
Yeah. It's good to be back.
Yes.
I feel it's good to be back in the studio.
Oh, well, I'm just gonna say this, and I think I did say it to you in like 1 or 2 voice notes over the 2-month gap that we were not doing this. I've missed doing the show. I also, like my husband, occasionally kind of goes, you haven't been sending voice notes to Ben lately. Is everything okay? As if the two of us have had a fight. And I'm like, no. Yeah. I'm on my honeymoon, and Ben's away with their partner on a holiday now. So, we're not actually, contrary to the rumor that Ben started in our group, we are not actually married.
Excuse you. I didn't start that rumor. That rumor was started by a reputable journalistic piece of print media and assumed by simply looking at a photo of us that the two of us were married.
In some universe, then, in some universe out there, it's probably after happening. But tonight, talking about changing topics, we are going to be talking about various different kinds of ways in which, and I guess for the both of us, given that our main campaigns have been predominantly being D&D 5e based, and with all the rule changes coming to that system, we kind of wanted to talk about things that changed the game. And I'm an absolute devil for taking mechanics from other games and just ham-fisting them into D&D. Like I think it kind of can keep a session really inventive and fresh and engaging. But it doesn't always work out. Like it doesn't always kind of hit it. And our prompt for everybody out there, like our topic for tonight, and also so we can steal them, is what is your favorite TTRPG mechanic? Like, what is the thing in that little system, that big system, that one shot that you found online? What is that really fun, little quirky thing that you've kind of got your hands on? That you're like, that's a really fun way of doing this. I think that's the way I'm gonna bring this into my games full time now. So, if there's a mechanic from a game that we should know about, then I would love if you would share them with us in chat. Okay, Ben.
Do you want me to share my favorite mechanic?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, why not? I only thought about it. It literally just came into my head there. It's just like, oh, yeah, I can answer this. I genuinely have a favorite one. And it doesn't work with D20 systems. I think the die has too many numbers on it. But for D12 systems and below, I love exploding dice. I love when you roll the biggest number on the dice that you get to roll it again and you keep going, which is sort of timely in a way, because I know that Dropout's Dimension 20, their current campaign that they're airing over on Dropout, is Never Stop Blowing Up, and they're using that mechanic. What they're doing is you start with, no matter the stat, all D4s, and then when you explode on a dice under that skill, you upgrade to the next one, and then so on and so forth. So everyone starts with a 4, but if you get a 4, you get a 6. You get a 6, you get an 8. You get an 8, you get a 10. 10, you get a 12, and so on. I think that's a really handy, streamlined way, especially in like one-shots or smaller campaigns, or where you don't need, where it's a lot of improv, it's a lot of creativity, it's not a lot of, the spell range is 60 feet, it needs these components. There's not a lot of crunch to it. It's more soup than crunch. Then in those games, I think that's a really lovely way to show progression based on what's literally happening. The action, it's responding to the action in the game, which is a little foreshadowing to kind of my main thing that I brought to the table this week. But before we get to that, Declan, do you have a favorite mechanic?
So I'm not really sure of it as a mechanic, as an overall thing, but I guess there's and we've actually featured this particular DM on Ben and Declan On A Roll before, Omar from A Tale of D20s. And actually, you know what? It is a TTRPG mechanic. It just doesn't necessarily have to be a dice rolling mechanic. Omar, in their games, at the end of every session, uses a version of Roses and Thorns called Stars and Wishes. And Stars and Wishes, and this is for whether you're a player that's like, oh, I think I might ask the DM to incorporate this, or you're a DM and you're like, aha, what's this about? Stars and wishes are a really wonderful way of, at the end of a session, kind of before everybody steps away from the table, kind of firstly, your star being that, like, actually, there was this moment in the game that, Ben, I think you were absolutely phenomenal at. Like, whether it was in the role play, or you thought about something mechanically, or narratively, or you used, the GM's description to get away with something or around something. So stars are a way for the players and the GM to sort of acknowledge people's contributions to the session, which I think is fantastic, because it just one, everybody leaves with a bit of and it is that kind of thing of, afterwards you're going to be texting anyway, kind of going, I can't believe you did that, I can't believe you said that, I can't believe you got that. Those things every table does that, I think. So those little stars, and the way the star mechanic works then is Omar then, like, whichever player ends up with the most stars, kind of like Mario Party. If you get 3 stars and there's 4 players, well, you got 3 out of the 4 stars going. You get kind of a type of inspiration that can be cashed in at any point. So it's not and it's separate to your character's inspiration. This is kind of like you, the player, have an inspiration that you can pull in, and that you get capped. You're not going to, like, hang on to these for the final session or anything like that. And the wishes, which I think is, for me, probably the better of the two. The wishes element is an opportunity then to kind of go, well, after the session's over, what do you like? What is it that, coming into the next episode you're most looking forward to? The next game time that we're most looking forward to? What is it that you want for your character next? And immediately it's like leaving little breadcrumbs for the DM to pick up on. So it's these things of like, oh, I really wish I had more time to talk to this NPC. I really wish I had a chance to say this. I really wish I had a chance to instigate this. I hope that I get to do X. I hope I'll have a chance to do Y. Not always going to happen. It's just a wish. But it is I love these kind of these little ways of, like, getting the players involved, getting the table involved in that collaborative aspect. So I think stars and wishes are a fun little way of doing it.
That's a really nice system to have. It makes me think of the stars part. I think would be great at any table, because I'm a serial turn hobbies into content person. Also, a really nice thing to do at the end of recording sessions or live streams or APs, because where that star comes up, that's your clippable content to be the teaser trailer for the episode when you're watching it. Just a really quick thing to do.
I'm just going to write that down.
Because that's the memorable bit. So that's the marketing bit. It helps to just cut that out, and then that can be your lead into the episode. And then the wishes thing, funny you should bring that up, because that is a huge topic in a book I picked up while I was away, called, they don't necessarily call it wishes, but I picked up a book called The Game Master's Handbook of Proactive Role Playing. And it's sort of, to boil it all down, and I'll get into a little bit more detail because I want to jump to chat for a second, because there's a great mechanic in there as well. Makes the session events, how your game runs, what happens, what your story is about, essentially, is back in the hands of the player. So that idea of what you wish you could do next time, what you want to see, feels to me what you would call in this book a short-term goal. So, like, I want to talk to the city guard about this, or I want to practice my swordsman skills to get better at Y, or I want to learn more about this mystery that we started to uncover. They seem like really good short-term goals. And as you said, it's a really great thing as a DM and as a GM to know, because I can't believe I've been playing this game since I was 14 or 15 years old, and I'm much older than that now. I kind of can't believe that it's taken me this long to realize this. But when you sit down to play a TTRPG system, the story isn't about the invading army from an astral plane. It's not about the treachery that's happening, the political intrigue that's happening in the kingdom. It's not about all the things you as a DM have, like, put aside. That can happen in the world, but this particular game, this particular group of players, story's about them.
Mm.
So if they become bakers during all this, that's the game you're playing. Like, and it's that classic kind of like write a book, I suppose, or that's a very glib thing to say, and I don't think it's actually all that helpful when you have good stories to tell, because I think DMs should be able to bring stories to the table. But it is a nice way to say, set clear expectations at session 0 to what this game is about. Hey, I have this idea, I have this world, it's going to be kind of political intrigue, treachery. Maybe bring some stuff to the table that's to do with that, and we'll have more fun. But yes, the mechanic. Do you want to take that one, Declan, from Zool44?
Yeah, so my DM in one campaign gives each player at least one spren of 7 different types based on play in the session. Collect spren, cash in certain amounts to gain 1 use things which you roll for to be used anytime. See, I kind of like this. This is going to. I don't mean to like diminish it. It kind of sounds like the DM's tuck shop. And it's that thing of like, hey, you're actually, and I maybe Zool44, you could elaborate for us, but you're saying 7 different types based on play. Are we talking like there's one for combat? You're talking one for, quick thinking? Is it like character moments? Like, is it kind of broken down into these sort of like, you're doing really well at this, and you're gathering quite a few of these types of spren, and you can now pool them all together and cash it in. I'd love to kind of know if it's like those kind of categories. It does sound like a great way of acknowledging players' effort at the table. It's something of, hey, look, I love that, when it comes to combat, you really get into it and you're thinking of it this way. Or again, this is how I'm kind of envisioning it. I know you've gone on to say that it's from the Stormlight archive. That to me, I'm a little bit I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's one of the Brandon Sanderson series.
Okay.
In that series, there's a selection of spren, and I think there's like Wind spren and Hope spren. They kind of represent. I'm going to butcher this, so apologies, bigger fans of these books. You would swear I haven't read them all, but I think it's because, like you say in chat here, you can earn compassion spren. There's like rage spren, like happiness spren, but then there's also like wind spren. So it's kind of a mix of ideals, which makes sense because the book itself is about kind of this reforming of a knight's radiant who are all swearing. They're all kind of slowly. I suppose I should say I don't think I've hit that category yet. But spoilers for the Stormlight Archive. I'll try to avoid them. I think I have. I don't think it's ruining it to say that there's a different spren that happens pretty quick, and that there's kind of people living up to ideals. But if so, apologies if that's ruined it for you. The writing alone will fix it. My ruining can easily be fixed by the writing. But yes, there's humor, vengeance, compassion, kind of character. Characteristics, I suppose, would be a good way to put them.
Interesting. Again, I think it's that idea of acknowledging aspects of a player's character and their performance at the table and what they might be noticing. That's really. I wonder then if they that DM then, because Zool says that they can cash in certain amounts to gain 1 use items or 1 use things, which you roll for to be used anytime. I wonder that are those, if you cash in a load of like humor spren, is the item kind of geared towards that?
Or like deck of silly things.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. Does like anything. I think that any mechanic that's there to acknowledge the players and what they're doing in a fun way, like in a kind of a, this is actually going to add something rather than, oh, you're doing really good at this, it's not going to get harder for you at that. What's that doing? Like what?
It ties a little bit into, there's a chat that happens sometimes around the idea of min-maxing. Like making sure your stats are all your items are all this, you've got the right combination of this. And I kind of fall a little bit closer to the role play should be everything, stats and mechanics to rule the game. I think there's a certain level of min-maxing, this is just my opinion, that you have to do to make the game enjoyable. Because to build on what you were saying there, I don't want to play a ranger whose whole deal is like befriending animals and like kind of learning about nature. And then when it comes to the dice rolls, because my stats are cruddy, I just never get to really do it that well. Or like a cleric who doesn't have the right like healing abilities. So the party are just like, you're terrible at this. There should be a certain level of being good at the thing, which doesn't, I think, hamper your fun. Because you're not winning, but it makes sense that this is why the story is about you, or this is why that moment needs you there. It's the difference between, single hero action films, and they can tend to be a jack of all trades, do everything, and team movies like the A-Team. They all have different skills. Let all them be good at them skills, and it can be. It's not the topic of the day, but it sometimes can be quite annoying to play with a very good min-maxy bard because they're skill monkeys. And so they're like, I'll lockpick. And the rogue's like, what am I here for? And they're like, I'll use healing word. And the cleric's like, okay, so I'm not needed. And it's like, I'll charm our way in. And then like the barbarian is like, I was just going to punch our way in, So like there is a danger to it for sure. But a good balance, I think, is always nice.
Well, I think that's always what it's going to come down to with that. Like we've said this before, Ben, that like if you're at the table and it's a min-max table, everybody wants these like well thought out, well planned out characters that have everything kind of set up and aligned. Great. Maybe your wacky druid who shapeshifts into a greasy pig. For the lulls of it, or for the background story of it, or the character story of it, might not be the fit for that table. So again, it does come down to a balance, but it also comes down to making sure that that's the right table for you, regardless of the system. That it's just the right table, and everybody has good expectations, the same expectations going in.
I think the spren mechanic is a really good way to have a hand in balancing the table as well, because you can sort of begin to invest more in compassion spren. If I was to put it in Romancing the Dungeon terms, I can imagine AJ picking up a lot of honor spren, just trying to do honorable things. So it means when that situation comes up, even if someone has better stats on the table, I'm there with my little bundle of spren going, well, I can spend these. These are a spendable resource. I might as well spend them. And it naturally moves the spotlight depending on the theme of the scene and what's needed in that moment, which I think is a lovely thing to do in any collaborative storytelling environment.
Before we, and if anybody else is out there with kind of mechanics, whether it's your own as a DM or something from your table as a player that you want to share, by all means, please do. I love picking up on these small things and trying to find how I can incorporate them into a session. I think anything that I can use to bring a good energy to the table and that kind of foster that collaborative, creative aspect to it is always going to be a benefit. But sometimes you come across a system, like an entirely new system, and it can be that sort of spark of, oh, hang on, this is going to fit what I'm doing now. And I, when Ben and I were chatting about this episode and the planning for it, I kind of went, well, I've changed a lot of the like rules of D&D. One, mechanically to suit the game that we're playing, but also I have attempted, and I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail, but for the start of season 3, I initially toyed with the idea of using an entirely different system for the first couple of episodes. And I spent ages reading the books. I looked at the different characters. I watched a ton of videos on that particular system in play, and I can't really go into the system without kind of it being obvious what the first couple of episodes for season 3 are going to be about. But I did very much envision as this is class. This is the best way to do this right now, and I think about a week before the recording date, I had everybody's characters. I had everybody's. Everybody seemed to have like the bare bones of the system lined up, and it hit me. I think just the weekend before we all got together to record that I don't think this is actually going to work, because what's going to happen for us, because again, we are recording. This is the big difference. We're creating content, we're recording content. I'm going to be dealing with a lot of, wait, hang on, what's this rule? Wait, hang on a second, how do I do that? Wait, sorry, on that page though it says this, and I'm not going to be as au fait with the system as I'd need to be to get over that sort of stumbling block, and neither are my players. So instead, I decided to pull the rug on it entirely. And I ended up doing something that I really enjoy doing in any game of D&D that I end up running, which is trying to introduce something else to it. Just a little thing that might take over. And from that particular system I took, that shall remain nameless until the episode comes out, I took a mechanic all to do with flashbacks. And I was like, this is actually going to be a fun mechanic that still can quite fit very easily into D&D. It's still tied very well into the thing narratively, and it's not going to cause any sort of, well, actually, you have to roll 2 percentile dice, and then you have to subtract that from your modifier, which is on the other character sheet over there. There was going to be none of that. So I'm a big advocate for changing the game and even changing systems, but also with a lot of thought and with a lot of planning. I don't think you should rock up on game day, pull the rug out in front of the players and go, hey, guess what? It's actually now a Starfinder game. And all that work we did on Dungeon Draft doesn't count, or all that work we did on Dungeon World doesn't count, because I've changed the whole system. So I don't know, Ben, what, like, from your experience, like, where do you see it fitting?
I think it's first of all, a very understandable temptation when you're playing a game, especially a long-term game, and you're playing in a system, and because you have a natural interest in TTRPGs, you're hearing about it, you're hanging out with other friends who might be playing other campaigns, and they're going, "Oh, we just played 10 Candles. This is amazing," and you just want to play it next game night. And so the temptation can be, how do I not stop the main campaign moving forward, but also get to scratch the itch of trying something new? And I think it's a very delicate thing to do, because I would often think it's better to enjoy a system in its entirety, exactly how it's meant to be played, than first anyway. Get like for the first to get a handle on all the mechanics and all the ways it works, and then only then begin to bring in little bits of elements from it. So, for example, if it was 10 Candles, I can see it working quite well in a podcast record, aside from the fire hazard of candles, because the failure aspect, the sense of this triggers on a failure, it doesn't matter what triggers that failure, whether you're rolling a pool of 10d6 or all the way down, or just your own stats. It's still failure, candle goes out. So that's a simple transposable mechanic. Whereas in my experience, sometimes when I'm told to build a character in, say, D&D Beyond, and then I get there and the DM's going, well, actually, I'm going to use this a little bit from one of these Powered by the Apocalypse games, and I want to use a little bit from this other system. The skills that I've built and thought about don't come into play as often. And that's not very satisfying as a player, to be like, well, I was looking forward to doing this thing. And that's going to be a little bit of a theme for me this episode anyway. That strange, seemingly contradictory thing of surprise your players, but give them what they want. It's really, people love knowing, I would like to do this, and then get surprised by how it happens. Like, I don't turn on my games console and go, any game will do. I go, I want to beat up thugs in New York City as Spider-Man. And I wonder what's going to happen when I do that. So I want a little bit of expectation met and a little bit of tone and theme and story subverted. And I don't think mashing systems together is often the best way to do that. But like I said, once you know a system in its entirety, I really like the character zero. How do people know each other from Powered by the Apocalypse? Those questions, they fit naturally. You're not replacing one aspect that someone's looking forward to with another. You're augmenting an entire system with a new thing that's not getting in the way. And I think it's why systems like Dread, with the Jenga dice being Jenga dice.
The old Jenga dice.
The old Jenga. I mean, roll my D6. Mostly lands on 1s to 4s, but 5 and 6s on the end. It might happen. That as a random generator. I think when you go up a level in terms of game design and you just think about what its function is, I think you can swap functions easily, but swapping games and kind of flavors like spells and stuff, I think it'll be a bit of a change for someone to go from prepare your level 1 to 8 spells to a different kind of magic. Imagine I had to actually play Magic the Gathering there. You'd be like, I meant to be good at this, but now I can't. There's an answer in there somewhere, I think.
No, I do. I like for someone who loves to muddy the rules at the table and like pick little things to pepper in. I do agree with you. Like that particularly that idea of don't at the start take two things and go, yeah, forget that'll do, and everybody has to kind of like blindly feel their way through it. I think knowing the system, whether it's 5e or Pathfinder or Candela Obscura, whatever it might be, I think knowing that and being confident in that is tantamount to then kind of go, actually, for the next session, we're actually going to, I don't know, a gambling den, and I don't just want to play D&D. I want to incorporate like card games. I actually want us to play Go Fish or Snap. But I'm now going to take something from your character sheet, like your sleight of hand. You can roll, and I will slip you a card. Like if you roll well enough, I'm going to give you the bonus. But if you fail, I'm going to take something. So you can. There's a really fun way when you are familiar and confident in a system to take something else and then bring that in. But I would still sort of underline that with, but keep it bloody simple. Like don't take 5e and then go, well, actually, the magic system in Sexy Battle Wizards, the one-page RPG from Grant Howitt, that's what all my casters have from now on. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work. Again, if you figure it out, I want to play it. But I just don't know if everything is going to marry in. So when we were talking about that min-maxer, that's sort of like the balance. It's the same thing when it comes to this. I would take small little things that you can use as the DM for something more narrative or mechanic based. That's just going to give it that little bit of a, oh, that was actually fun. I'm not saying enter, an Iron Chef contest, in Fandolin and then have the entire table prepare you a 6-course meal and you get to like that. I mean, hilarious, but I don't necessarily see the do for the table other than obviously hopefully end up with a delicious spread of food. But I think checks and balances are required when you're going to do that.
I think you've hit on something really interesting and a clear way in, though, for trying it. The casino example is great because it's kind of, hey, in this moment, the game's getting changed a little bit. And that's kind of an exciting surprise because, sometimes freshening it up and sort of changing expectations is a good thing. And especially when players remember, it's like, okay, I'm playing Go Fish, but can I refer back to my character sheet? It's a thing that happens all the times with riddles. It's a lesson I'll never learn. Don't just take a riddle from the real world or make one up that you think people will get. And then there's sort of we're so tempted. We never do this with physical stats, but we do it with mental ones. I now, as the player, need to figure this out, as opposed to, hey, can I roll an intelligence check?
Mm.
Can you give me the answer to that, please? Because that feels unsatisfying in a game moment, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it is on the DM to go, you smarter pattern recognition people, why don't you give me this check and I'll, either make this easier for you, because we're also nerds, we like challenges. I remember at D&D era, when we were all playing in a castle, part of the game was sort of a county fair at the beginning. So I brought games, and one of them was essentially the New York Times connections, or if you're old school like me, only connects connecting wall, where I just got 4x4 little sheets of paper, and I was like, that's the game. But there was no stakes to it. You got a bonus to your intelligence if you completed it within a time limit, but it wasn't like the walls are closing in and my character's going to die because of what's happened on Homebrew. Where it's like these mechanical machines were marching towards them unless they figured out this riddle. And all the players, I think it's fair to say, found it unsatisfying. And it's not that I'm against change. Another episode, I let one of the players just run a game show. So like that was our session. They just ran a full game show, and that was the game. So do shake things up. Do change the game when you can. I suppose what we're talking about here is how to best, or like pitfalls that we might have come across that might help you if you're going to try it. If you're like us, let us be the skeletons in the ruins with an arrow to our chest pointing out crap ahead.
Yeah, that's the analogy I really wanted to go for. Imagine me dead, pointing at the thing that killed me.
Don't do this.
My jaw falling off.
I don't know. I think he died of old age.
That's what got to him. Yeah, no, it is. It's always kind of. It's always exciting when, again, D&D era or D&D in a castle was that fair or fed example was a lot of fun, because I love the mechanic of, or not even the mechanic. I love the setting of, hey, it's a festival, and then coming up with the stupidest games that the players can use their their stats, their skills to try and win. Always fun, especially if you introduce NPC contenders and you give them, well, this is last year's champion, so they get a +3. This person is in training all year, they get a +2. This person's absolutely awful, -1. And then you narrate what they do as well. So it could be a great way to do that. But I started with one that I always run, which is Catch the Pig, which is it's a really fun. They can use Dex, they can use athletics, they can use acrobatics. And then I was like, that's easy. So this year we're going to grease that pig up. So now it's a greasy pig. So you might be able to roll acrobatics to catch it, but your athletics checks are going to be at disadvantage to hold on to it. And then when they grab it, I was like, actually, it's also a flying greasy pig. So every stage of it was just like, you think it's this, but now the pig's got wings. And the little piggy flew off, and the whole team actually ended up working together, especially when they found out that the prize was a flying greasy pig. Yeah, that was, and then they weren't happy that they only got one flying greasy pig, so they went and beat up the owner and stole 2 more.
Or flying greasy pig flying so close to the sun and getting, I say this is a vegan, so delicious.
Well, yeah. There was a moral quandary for the table towards the end of our session, but in that same thing, because not all of the party wants to go play that game. I just took Jenga, and I was like, there was a goblin, a gnome, and a kobold that were running the Tower of Doom, and it was a team-based Jenga game where each team member would go up one at a time and take a break and play Jenga. But then the fun part was 6 of the blocks were enchanted. 3 positive enchantments, 3 negative enchantments, and if you drew that, you were imbued with that enchantment. So, but the negative one was negative for your enemies. So you got like to counter something that they were doing, and that was a lot of fun to see people. It did end up taking most of the time from the actual session, so there's that to factor in as well, that they were really enjoying it. So eventually I started slowly tipping the table a little bit. It was like tip. But one of the other tables, it was actually, Ben, it was your table that we had.
Oh yes,
competing with us. Eventually decided to use command on one of the other players and have them knock the tower over. And again, in comes a whiz save, and they failed, and they knocked the tower over. So it's a fun little. Think of like that. Think of the small little things that you might drop in, and I think theming them or finding ways for them to fit. Don't just slap it in there because you heard us two on about it, or you play like that. You played 10 Candles last weekend. Like, I'm going to bring that into my D&D game, or I'm going to bring that into my Daggerheart game, or whatever it might be. Take something small and add it. I wouldn't just take all of it and force it in. I don't think it fits.
There's always the campfire beach episode. If you really desperately want to play something new, even if it's the middle of a battle for whatever reason, flash back to a campfire, and just play the game. Just play it, and no one minds. You're there. Like, ultimately, take a step back from the table, back from your players. You're a group of friends together playing games, whatever those games are. Like, I would be just as happy if I came down to record Romancing, and Declan goes, "Here's a controller. It's Mario Kart." And it's like, oh, great. Because I'm surrounded by my friends having a good time. It's all good. I'm realizing there is a whole episode of content in minigames, games, why they're good, why they're bad.
I'll write that down too.
Yeah.
Whole episode, minigames.
But to move us into the next section, this definitely is rusty. We kind of wrote down a loose agenda, but I'll let you know as viewers what you can expect before we wrap up. So I'm going to chat a bit. I foreshadowed this earlier. Going to chat about this book a little bit. We're going to talk about D8 Dungeon Drive. There is a Haggany Ant, a problem at the table that we're going to bounce around for a little bit. I think that's the 3 other segments of the show, but I'm happy to do them in any order. I'm also happy to let Dice decide.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, do we want to take a quick break? We come back from our break, and I think what I've slotted in for our BRB would be a nice way to jump into D8 Dungeon Drive. But I don't want to, I don't want to spend, I just want to maybe talk about the highlights of it, and maybe 1 or 2 moments, Ben, that you enjoyed or you found, and then I'll talk about 1 or 2 moments that I found. And then because I really want to talk about that book, because the few messages that we were sending back and forth were that book.
I'm burning the ear off anyone I can talk to about it. It's become my new obsession.
So we are going to take a quick breather. So perfect time to have a bio break, stretch, hydrate, whatever it is you need to do over the next 10 minutes. I will just give kind of a warning for this video. There might be strong language in this. This is a 9-minute master cut from Emily Taylor of Fate's Grip, and just enjoy it. I just enjoy it. It's painful. Enjoy.
The landing dock opens with a and then it kind of stops. I'm so sorry, Master Corinthian. If you just jiggle the handle a little bit.
We've really got to get this fixed.
Is this handle stuck that you're jiggling?
Yes, it needs to be jiggled.
Oh no. Yeah, cool. I'm gonna walk on over and I'm gonna huak cha straight onto that.
Spit on that thing.
You're gonna
spit on that thing.
Evie, why? Please don't make a fool of yourselves.
I'm gonna lick the back of my hand. This skin tastes weird.
Humans don't do that. Evie, humans don't just lick themselves.
When a poster slaps Evie right in the face, and it's stuck.
I liked that.
I don't like that. I really wish that. I think I'm just going to have to ignore you for the rest of the stream.
Contest. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm taller than him.
That's not what it's about. It's about who's more important. It's Lord, right?
Yeah, but we can't go head to head if I'm taller than you.
One of us is much closer to Lord than the other. It's obvious.
One of us is much closer to the sky.
Are you? Just because you chose a tall human body, are you trying to pull some sort of loophole?
No, I'm just trying to gain a height advantage.
Normally, yes, the prom overlord would supersede.
Oh, it's an overlord.
Yeah, it's just that.
I prefer an underlord myself.
Evie.
Brittany Carmichael is a shoo-in for it. She won last year, and she wasn't even a senior.
I look at Kyle and I say, Michael's a really good name for a car.
Huh?
I'm actually gonna murder you so hard.
I'm gonna look at Corinthian and say, listen, you're really embarrassing me at the moment. If you could just be a little cooler, that would be okay. And then I spit in my hand and I slick my hair back.
Okay, so I am gonna ask you to give me. Okay, I'm gonna ask you to give me a. That's disgusting. Her books go flying and people start laughing. Yeah, the smell. Oh my god. This... What's this?
You're really short.
We're the exact same height.
I'd like to use my power that I've just decided exists. Which is the power to shrink or enlarge anything. And I'm just going to make her 1 inch shorter.
We're bringing democracy to Europe. That's the first thing I'm going to do as the first lady president of the United States.
Well, I'd rather not have democracy. I'd rather have a succulent Chinese meal.
Get your hands off my.
Be honest,
I don't think you know your judo well.
I would welcome the competition.
Competition.
Sorry, Evie,
Yes,
which
you
one
can.
of us are you laughing at? Who are you mocking? I'm unclear.
What I would
I'd like to spend the whole week, by the way, speaking to anyone who is like just, part of Bridget's crew and also beyond, just starting like really vile rumors about her. Like really terrible rumors. Yeah, just consistently. I heard that she eats her hair.
I mean, could be worse.
Okay, he's has been deceased, so someone take over, please.
One time, she went fishing and she slapped.
What?
Declan, please.
I'm so sorry. For anybody that's watching, like anyone in there's first time chats here, Emily. They're gonna think this is the standard at which I deliver.
One time, she slapped a
Good.
fish.
Why did I take these glasses off? There's no lenses in them. I could have just done this.
One time, she kidnapped an entire colony of lizards and set them off.
Okay.
Into a bird enclosure.
Are you
Don't
crying?
go too far, you're wearing shorts. Don't go too far away.
Oh yeah.
The magic is gone.
Because we haven't even gotten to prom in Prom Invaders.
Oh, you're gonna be really sad, Declan.
I don't feel anything anymore, Emily. I don't feel anything anymore. As the four of you glide now.
I'd actually like to power slide, if that's okay. Using my power of power slide. I look at this red carpet and I spit on the ground next to me and then power slide.
Yeah. As your entrance, you want to power slide in with your entrance. Okay.
And last and probably least, Evie.
Wow.
The thing with Evie is that she spent some time on the interwebs now, familiarizing herself with human life. And so she performs with perfect precision the entire choreography to Jojo Siwa's Karma.
Well,
Well, there we have it, folks. I think it's time we all cancel Emily. Also, I would like to let you know that the lore rights have asked that you stop reminding people that you are associated with them. So she told Brock not to dab because teenagers love dabbing, and that's the one thing she told him to do.
Does he lose his modifier though because he's smaller now?
she told Brock not to dab.
What are you doing with Brittany out in the hallway?
Listen, I can look past all the fish slapping and the lizard kidnapping, and I can look past a lot of things. But one thing I cannot look past is violence against Corinthian. And for that reason, you're gonna have to pay, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm the only one that's allowed to be in love with him. And I will use my alien power to shrink her down to the size of an ant, or like something small, and I will pick her up and put her in my pocket.
You.
And once she's in my pocket, I'm going to just clap against the pocket, squishing her into a small paste.
Your plan to be popular was to kill Brittany.
After that happens, Corinthian gently approaches Evie and just says, Evie, do you want to take just a little walk with me outside? I wanted to say that if I had won, which I didn't, I was going to grant you powers over the school, as Prom Lord would allow me to do, like you have powers over my... Is that cheesy if I say it that way?
Do it. Fucking,
I really like Camembert.
Okay. You have powers over my heart?
Are we getting back together?
We can. That would be... yes, I think I would... How do I say this? I would like that.
And if they will allow, being the towering woman that I am, I will lean down and give them the hottest, slimiest kiss in the universe.
Doubly slimy.
From the inside, with my asthma!
And what you were just witnessing, other than apparently my soul leaving my body, was just one game from this year's D8 Dungeon Drive. And I have been very, very lucky over the last 4 years to be one of the co-organizers for that. Big shout out to Amber, who, I don't know if Telepathic Narwhal is still in chat, but who without the whole thing wouldn't actually happen. So I guess having watched my shame for the last few minutes, why don't we talk about something I'm quite proud of? And I'm incredibly proud of D8 Dungeon Drive, and incredibly grateful to the DMs and the players and the mods and the folks who tuned in to watch and share and donate. I'm incredibly thankful for that, because our goal this year was $3,000 for the PCRF, the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. And we set a goal of 3,000, and then we broke that before the whole event even started. And then we set a goal of $3,401, because last year we raised $3,400 at the end of the stream. And we broke that by the end of the D8 Dungeon Mania. And then we moved the goalposts to $4,000. thinking, well, okay, we have 2 days of games left. It would be, how admirable would it be to raise another $600 between now and Sunday, assuming that, like, we had tapped the well of our reach and our community, and like so gratefully tapped that reach. But nope, we reached 4K by Saturday night, and then Saturday night, Sunday morning, and then before the night finished on Sunday night, Monday morning, we raised another $1,500 for the PCRF. And that was, I guess, that was my highlight. That was one of my highlights of the whole thing. And the donations are actually still open. They're still open for the next. They're still actually open. They're open until the 12th of August. So if you weren't able to watch or tune in live and you wanted to donate, that link is there in chat now. Or there's more information if you want to learn more about who the PCRF are and what they do. Those links are in chat now as well. It's staying open to the 12th because the hosting service that we use, Tiltify, are running a birthday giveaway until the 11th of August. And we're hoping that we have reached the goal. We were supposed to raise $500, and they said that they'll select 10 campaigns that are running, and they'll match another $500, which would be phenomenal for the PCRF. So we're going to leave it open for another couple of days. So if you are in a position to donate, thank you. If not, you can still share the link. It's still open. It'll be open to the 12th. Ben, you were DMing. And
yeah.
and competing.
And competed. I had something to do every day, a fraction of the amount that both Declan and Amber were doing. But yeah, it was, and when I wasn't playing or DMing, I was second screening at home, watching as many of the games that life would allow. It was incredible. It's always a I have a strange and very special relationship with the 8 Dungeon Drive because it's how I kind of got to meet everyone in a way. The very first one, I volunteered to GM a game, and then from there, got to know everyone in D8 a little bit, and that kind of casual acquaintance of, oh, we're both in Ireland, we all like TTRPGs, grew into friendships and then into close friendships, and then into like genuinely some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. It's strange when you're older in life where you're like, this group of people, I wish I knew you sooner. But also, I'm glad I know you now because I've grown as a person too. You would have hated me when I was younger, so it's nice to
That's not me nodding along going, yeah, I'd have hated Ben. That's me nodding along going, yeah, I'd have hated me too. So no.
I've heard it said that people come into your life for a reason at a time in which you need them. But I was glad because last year I wasn't able to take part. I think I was away. I think I was at a wedding or something. But this year was great to be back. There were so many highlights. I'm going to keep it very top line. One, seeing new systems being played is always a delight. As a fan of this community, as a fan of games, as a fan of tabletop. But more than that, getting introduced, and the reason I kind of topped the section with this, getting introduced to new people who share the same values as me, who share the same play style as me, is just like birthday and Christmas at one. And there was so many people who I actually haven't like reached out to or contacted to, like maybe just followed them on social, who now, because of the show, I have a legitimate kind of like reason to be like, hey, can we talk about games? Come on, Ben Declan On A Roll. Seeing different play styles, it's tough because I find if you watch the big shows, the kind of global shows, the ones who go on arena tours,
us obviously,
us as well, yeah, we're on our arena tour at the moment. They're great entertainment, but not always, I find, an easy learning opportunity. Whereas with everything, and I very much urge you, as soon as the VODs are going up, you see a system you're interested in, watch the game, because you're seeing people play it often for the first time, figure it out, and then also bring their best role-playing selves to it. I'm kind of vamping because I'm deciding whether to like shout out people individually, because honestly everyone was incredible, but there was like a couple of standout people that I just have this huge like gameplay crush on now. Or just like, they seem amazing. I want to know how they play. I want to pick their brains and figure out how they do what they do, because I was seeing things that I struggle with at the table. I play not a crunchy character in Romancing Dungeon, but often it's a lot of, if this happens then that, and if this happens then that, and if this happens then that. When you're recording content, it's nice to be able to condense your turn, especially in combat, into something kind of easy to edit around and easy to kind of listen to. With a fighter, it's often, did I hit, yes or no? If yes, how much did I hit? If I hit this distance, can I stack this on? If I stack this on, can I move to this thing? So it's a lot of only in that microsecond moment. And I would have thought it was impossible to play any other way until I saw, first and foremost, D8 Mania, the big PvP battle, seeing all those different playstyles. And two people in particular stand out to me in that. Kevin the Mailman and Gribbo were just incredible players, incredible characters, and knew it's always like, know your character sheet. They knew the paper their character sheet was printed on and the weight of it. It was, and effortlessly too. It just blew my mind that they were just like, I do this because this happens, I triggered this. They weren't talking over anyone. There wasn't any kind of like, no, interruption kind of moments. It was just a simple, calm, collected, a joy to watch. And then in particular, the player who played Kevin the Mailman was in Close Encounters of the Prom kind. And I saw the duality of that person, who might as well shout out. It was a guy called Jacob. They were incredible. They had an amazing mechanical mind, but then an amazing roleplay mind. And that was just a beautiful thing to see. And if anyone hasn't guessed yet, that will be one of the first emails I send, being like, can I interview you about the performativity of roleplay and also balancing that with crunchy mechanics? Because their mind worked in a way that seemed to intrinsically get that. And if it's not clear from how fast I'm talking and how red my face is going, it's just become my new obsession, is figuring that out.
You highlighted kind of the two players in the PvP tournament. I actually have somebody else that, from my point of view as one of the DM referees, S48 or played by Steve, or I think on Twitter Steve is Sassy Pants 1996. Not 100% certain on the Twitter handle, but I do know it is Sassy Pants. They go by on the on Twitter, but they're thereabouts anyway. But in a combat situation where they had very little options, they ended up using the environment in a really fun way, because it was that thing of like, when the DM puts a thing on the map in front of the players, somebody should use it. Somebody should engage with it. And I think a lot of people are like, oh God, don't touch that. Don't touch that. That's a bad thing. And here we have a player coming in going, I would like to talk to that tree and see if that tree will respond to me. And it's a PvP tournament for charity. Hell yes, that tree is going to talk to you. And hell yes, that tree is going to try and help you solve your disadvantage, because you took the time to engage and you took the time to think of ways out of your predicament. And I loved those kind of moments of sort of like, there's a gap here between your character and mine. How do I close it? And how do I close it quickly and efficiently? I loved that moment. Outside of the D8 Dungeon Mania, it's so hard because I'm not only a DM in three of the games, if you include D8 Dungeon Mania, but I produced 3 of them as well. So I'm going to have so much bias. But I did produce, Ben, your game, To Me, My X-Men, on Saturday morning. And I do want to shout out your whole table. Because that is other than a session 0 and like a couple of messages back and forth on, you know, the Discord planning it all out, I literally loved the fact that one of your mechanics, Ben, was this sort of like, one of the donation incentives was Emma Frost pops in and everyone body swaps. And so now suddenly you had 4 players who don't know each other out of a quick session 0, and now having to play each other's characters as canon characters from the X-Men universe. And they all played that in such a fun way, because that can get as someone who loves a body swap, as someone who loves, you wake up but you're not in your body. I loved the way they really played into that. There were some absolute. My intuition told me to awaken. Oh God, it has spawned. It has arisen. Everybody, this is the moment we've been preparing for. The apocalypse is nigh. Head to the shelters. Grab your loved ones. Emily Grace is awake and in the chat. Oh God, you missed. We played your video. Emily, where you utterly decimated me. So screw you.
This one's for Emily.
Oh, it ruined Catwoman for me so hard. But I loved that moment. There were so many. It's a line in Whispers from Below, which was Lalion cosplay, or Anya's game, the Candela Obscura game, where Neil, who was playing like a medium, falls down the stairs and just came out with this quip as they fell of like, I knew kitten heels would be the death of me. And I remember, because I wasn't producing that game, but I was in the background, and I was just laughing away to myself. And then straight after that, you had Tom with Murder and Maple Candies, and you had these absolutely wonderful. I do love one of the players is like, but maybe the bullet holes are a distraction from what really killed him. I love that moment. I love everybody leaning into it. Then you have the Feign of Corruption from Ben Declan, and really, really fun to see Shadow Dark. Like, such a cool system played out into it, and totally such a shift from like, Brindlewood Bay. So you go from Brindlewood Bay, like your 1990s daytime TV was just mad. And then you go into the Feign of Corruption, which is this hardcore gore, chaos, murder, darkness. Throw in the fact that Roll20 hates Ben, and all of the calamity that ensues with that. And that then led us into Wayne's game on Saturday, Adventurers Wanted, with the new Daggerheart system from Darrington Press. And that looks like such a fun system. And again, 3 absolutely phenomenal players with Wayne, weaving a story together kind of off the top of their heads, like completely sort of like, this is what we're going into, and everybody leaning into it. It is such a there was such on the Saturday, there was such kind of a variance in like the systems and the themes and the tones that shifted us into Sunday with Marcus, the individual who, if you're not following on social media, you should be. If you're not following Marcus's YouTube channel, you should be. And Sexy Battle Wizards from Grant Howitt. And again, a wonderful. That's the game that you were in, Ben.
I was.
And
sunglasses are somewhere.
such great energy on the third day. There they are, the props. Wonderful energy to kind of kick off a Sunday with. From there, then into my D&D game, and I don't care if it's bias. I do want to shout out my table because I wasn't the original DM. 3 days before the event, unfortunately, Apollo, who was to DM what came first, the Time Dragon or the Egg, had to withdraw for personal reasons. So I slotted in. And again, they had already done their session 0 with that DM. They had already created characters. They had already gotten used to the world they were going into, the concept. And then they got me as a alleged DM. And it is it's always a bit of a when you kind of have to do something else. And they just talked to it so well. And they were such a joy to work with. And then I had we had Thirsty Sword Lesbians, which is a system I'm so mad to try with from Die. And that was just wholesome, wonderful goodness, speed dating in a coffee shop that I never wanted to end. And then we had Prom Invaders that I got to DM that you watched at the end. That was that. And there's nothing to say about Prom Invaders.
I'll say it. All the players throughout, but something about the improv, quick speaking in Prom Invaders, everyone having kind of clear, and I think it's like partly the players, partly the system, and partly the session 0 coming in and being like, I'm a this type of teenager. I'm a this type of teenager. Worked really well. That watching it, and I try not to be hyperbolic in what I say, genuinely felt like watching a hilarious should be a movie teenage comedy, and there has to be a movie out there where aliens come to Earth and try to pretend to be teenagers, because it's a perfect setup, and how your players delivered on it was brilliant, all fitting like natural roles in a way that harks a little bit back to what we were talking about in the beginning, where let your clerics be clerics, let your rogues be rogues, don't let the bards do everything, as a lifetime bard over here. And lovely, amazing to see, and it's always a cherry on top when they end up driving you a little bit demented. it's nice to watch, the slow descent into madness. I get the feeling you thought you were adding some yogurt to Emily's spice, but you were adding chilies and more spice, with everyone just amplified and perfect, beautiful chemistry. It will go down in history as one of my favorite streams I've ever watched in my life. So thank you everyone who played in that, because you've added joy to my life. No, we've lost Declan. He's talked too much. That's okay. This usually happens to me. Oh, good news, everyone. If you're a long-time fan of the show, I've got new internet, so I'm no longer a little glitchy boy. There is as good a time as any to dip into the other part of this episode, which was me. When I was away, I picked up this book here, called The Game Master's Guide to Proactive Role-Playing. A very easy and simple read. Genuinely, if anyone wants to borrow it, but I think Declan's put his name down first on that list. I'll post it around the world. As long as you post it back, that's totally fine. But also go out and grab yourself a copy as well. I'm one of those people who believes in the good of a social library, but also the good of supporting authors. So as a very quick, I'm not going to review it, and I think everyone knows that we're small enough that I don't have to declare we don't know the authors. There's no affiliation here. It's just something that I think in the Changing the Game episode, worth talking about, this idea of proactive role playing. So before we get into it, I suppose let's define what that is. In the typical situation, and it's a classic way to go about it, especially as DM, you come up with your world, you come up with your story, the dragon attacks and the heroes react. Whereas this changes it a little bit, relies a little bit more on session 0s, but not just session 0s, always on. God, you can tell I work in marketing. Ongoing, that's the human way to say that word. Ongoing goal setting, which is a core part of this. So everyone has a couple of goals, usually good to have multiple ones, short-term goals, mid-term goals, and long-term goals. And I think if you were watching the To Me My X-Men game, I incorporated it in the session 0. So I asked all my players to write down some goals that they want their characters to have during the session. It was mostly short-term ones because we weren't playing a long campaign. And it meant that as a DM, I could take them all together, look at them in a big sort of red string chart and go, okay, so if this person wants to find an old forgotten ancient sword because they believe that's their ancestral, that's going to help their ancestral village bring back good times in spring and summer. And this person's looking to up their martial prowess, and this person just wants to go on a life-changing adventure. Suddenly I can pull all these things together and place them in one part of the world. And it ties back to what we were chatting about a little bit earlier. The game you're playing, the games that are for me are most enjoyable to play, aren't ones where I'm just reacting to what the DM villains are doing. It's one where I have an active part in the story. And it's why I think, and they mention this in the book, we have a habit after playing D&D for a couple of years, or any tabletop game for a couple of years, where we all go, oh, let's play a villains campaign. Let's all be villains. We all have that kind of, let's do this. And that's not because being nasty and evil and being kind of the worst people is fun, although that can be fun in a safe environment. It's because villains are naturally proactive. They go and get the things they want. They don't really care what the village is up to before they rock in. They're just like, I'm here to smash open the old abandoned minecart, go deep and down, find the dragon's heart, bring it back, shove it into an old chalice, drink from it, and become immortal. So that's that. And that's a really like off the cuff good example of a goal. Or like, and short-term goal, find access to the minecart. Long-term goal, unlock arcane secrets, and like ultimate goal, become immortal. Declan, I believe, because I heard you chuckle, we have you back.
I hope so. I don't know.
Yes, well, I can hear you. I don't know if stream can hear you. Be hilarious to put a little joke on us all stream if you were like, no, we can't hear you. Please let us know. That's all on the player side. I'll try to sum up the DM side. So once your players have come up with their characters and set their goals, you then start as a DM thinking about factions. You could probably start thinking about locations, but I think factions are an easier thing to think about first. What are the general sense of organizations that exist in this world? Once you have them, you can start thinking about the type of people that would exist in those factions. That's where your NPCs come into play. You don't need to fill them up with loads of people. Just think about the type of people who either oppose or align with your players' goals, because they're the people they're going to interact with. And then the reason location is last, if I remember correctly from this book, is because you can then start to decide when you go, okay, well, if it needs to be a mountainside that this minecart is in, what factions would exist in this area? So before you put them on the map, wait until you find out what your players want to do. And there's a couple of kind of, it's probably stuff we're already naturally doing. It hasn't been like codified into a book. I think great DMs already do this. It brings in the stars and wishes situation. Stars, great job for most of the time accomplishing your goal. Wishes, here's what I plan on doing next. It brings a natural reward system outside of XP, so you're not just XP farming. It's like, I need to become a better swords person. Well, fulfilling your goal is a reward in and of itself. And the final thing is this lesson I keep having to teach myself. When a player says to you, and it's something I'll often voice my Declan about, hey, for season 3, can I do this, and this? I'm not lying. I'll enjoy doing those things. But what I am also looking forward to is how Declan spins that, how that prompt or how that kind of ask of a DM turns into what happens in the story in the world, what complications are thrown in front of me to stop me. So that's where I'll end my little spiel. There's a couple of rules for goals. There's 5 in the book, but I've shortened it to 3, and 1 I've forgotten already. But like, so you remember them straight away. They should be fun to pursue. They should be achievable, and remember the third one. And there should be a consequence if you don't achieve it. So it can't be a type of thing like, we need to get through this door, roll, fail, try again. Okay. There should be you failed. That goal has changed now. And it ties back to, I write this prompt every Ben and Declan on a roll, and I don't think I've said it once. There's a golden invisible rule to all TTRPGs, which everyone should remember. If X, then Y.
No, you have mentioned that.
Oh, nice. Great.
Okay,
It's the only, it's like, it's everything. It's like, if this, and in this case, if the player's goals are X, then these factions, these NPCs, these locations need to be in their way. If my goal is to become the best swordsman in the world, then Y. If I succeed, what's next? What's the next goal? Or if I fail, what does that mean for the story? That is a very whistle-stop tour, and purposely not too detailed led, because you should buy the book and read it. On everything I learned. That's my contribution to class today. Have
No.
I?
I think that like there's so many things that you mentioned, Ben, that again I have never seen written down, but they're things that I think are intrinsic to good storytelling. And oftentimes when I listen to interviews with writers or authors that I really enjoy, um, I love when they see the character that they're writing as somebody with real goals and aspirations. And that's you take that mentality and you apply it to the table. Your players are those characters with real goals and aspirations and dreams and hopes. And there is this really, really important thing to be had in. And we've talked about failing at the table. We've talked about like, well, if you don't get that, what's going to happen? Where do we go next? And my one thing, and I'm glad you kind of mentioned it in your not in your summary, because it's not a review. Like it was a really nice summary of that book. I dropped the link. It's gone into chat there for
Oh, nice.
Drive Through RPG as well. So if anybody does want to pick it up, there's a load of different versions that you can access there. But the one thing that I guess from talking to you about it, here and there over the summer, my one concern was that, oh god, have they even considered the GM in all this? It's called the Game Master's Handbook. Where's the GM again? Because this was just these were little notes that we were sending each other occasionally while on two opposite sides of the world. But I did wonder, like, where does the GM come into that? Because it is something that I bring in all of my games, whether it's a campaign or a one shot. And Emily's here, and hopefully she's not going to make me look like a liar. But before our session on Sunday for Prom Invaders, I mentioned that, look, I will let you away with whatever you want effectively. So here's the thing: we're here to have fun, we're here to tell a story, we're here to have a good time, and I want you to do things that are going to test me, try me, and make me think of this thing as creatively as possible. And for that, I will let you push the envelope. I will let you do things that might not be on the rules or might not break the rules or whatever. But if that's the condition I'm giving you, then that condition works both ways. And as the GM, I want you to then kind of have you as the players on board for certain things that I might throw at you. Which, I mean, in this instance was, and again, I'm glad that Emily's here for it, because it is the Brittany Carmichael coming into the canteen or the school cafeteria with her ring light, her phone, and her entourage, and them not know anything about her, and then have her be this queen bee, and then have it, and then yes, perfect example of that was your Uno reverse. You gotta obey the hottest person in the room. And Brittany at that time had the most hot points, not even a mechanic, but was just the hottest. And then another player took her down a peg just by hacking her phone. And that player now became, after fixing the phone, the hottest person in the room. So these things, these little gives and takes, we have to remember those at the table as the DM and as the player. I think those are not. I think they can kind of get sidelined, particularly in a campaign where we get bogged down in like the details and the grit of the story. That we need to remember that I can test the waters here because I let you. And I forget this sometimes. as the DM. Even like sometimes I've had conversations with myself, and sometimes I send them as voice notes to Ben, where it's like I've just remembered I'm the dungeon master, I'm the game master, I can do whatever I want. And be reminded of that thing of, oh, actually, yeah, I can take this thing and change it. It's my world. I've homebrewed it. I've done so much damage to it. I've invited even more damage into it. And I forget that every now and again. And it does take a little nod from a player like Emily to remind me of, actually, no, I just did this. Like, oh, wait a minute, I can do those things too. And yeah, uh, i- it's wonderful when you do let the players dictate things, or dictate sounds like such a harsh word, but you know, direct it, I guess. That it's
Yeah.
not, because again, my one thing is it is collaborative. Like, it's not you're the storyteller and you're the players. Well, we're all players and I am the wrangler of it, but we're all telling the story together collaboratively. So that would be my note on kind of
I think it's
proactive
a
roleplay.
very fair note, because they don't go into like what goals should a GM set. It's always kind of like putting the work back on the player. Player should be setting short-term goals, long-term goals, medium-term goals. I don't know if that's on purpose or if they kind of know that the type of person who becomes a GM naturally does it anyway. They're going to give their villains, their factions, their this and that goals. But what you're getting at is even a little bit beyond that, which is you as a person outside, above the table a little bit. What type of story do I want to tell? What type of game? What type of uh, points do I want to get across? And I think this, in a way, I'm trying to figure out in my own brain how this isn't opposed to that, because I do think there is a certain sort of thesis in this book, which is you don't come with a full story and then get your players to run through it and sort of mess it up a little bit. You ask them for, I think you can come with a setting or a genre or a type of game and go, I'm thinking of running a film noir PI kind of thing. I know the city, I know the kind of space. What kind of characters we come up with, what kind of goals we have, and then start filling in um, where those factions that you've come up with, which would probably be crime, police, underbelly, markets, edutainers, whatever, how do they fit into this story? And be a little bit okay or a little bit liberal with the sense of, if the police never get involved, I have to be happy with that as a DM, because that's not where they're taking it. Whereas I do think it's important that you can always find a way to cram it in, or maybe certain goals can be led that way. And I think it is a fair note not to forget the GM in it. What I really loved about it was it took away a lot of the long prep, which I personally don't enjoy too much, which is put all this prep in and they haven't even gone down that path. And like, as much as it's always like, just move the city or move the path, I'm like, yeah, but it always feels like I'm shoehorning, no matter how like deft I am at it. Whereas now I know I'm going in, for me, as the type of GM I am, I'm going in knowing I'm fulfilling their wants and wishes from a game, and freeing up to get to bring my creations, the settings I'm putting in, the type of characters they interact with, the goals that they might have. And weirdly enough, it makes the GM more reactive, despite being called the proactive role playing, and the player's more proactive. I think it's flipping that balance a little bit, maybe as an over egg, because the balance for so long was flipped the other way. Dragonlands, you attack.
Yes.
Versus we're running through the town, and then it's not to say that a dragon couldn't land, but the trigger for that is they're escaping, and I need something to. Oh, a big dragon will be nice here. I'm there you go. Well, you think you guys are getting away? Here's a complication.
But like I think we've kind of even talked about in our episodes about like preparing, like over preparing and preparing to fail, and like again, I do think though, Ben, that like a lot of that, it's like I don't want to get I have, because I haven't read the book, I don't want to like come down on it, but I think a lot of that is really really fitting a GM who's doing it a long time. not necessarily someone who's starting. Like if you if you turned around to me as a fledgling dungeon master, many years ago, and said, "Okay, here's 4 beats and you have 3 hours," I would probably have run out of stuff to do in the first hour because I'd have read him through all 4 things, and I would have railroaded him into it. I think that notion of don't over prepare, don't just get the players to fill in blanks, and then you tie all that together. Wonderful if you are a writer. Wonderful if you're a really good improviser. But if you're not those 2 things, if you're not even one of those things, maybe you're a good writer, but you're not great at improvising, or maybe you're a great improviser, but you're not good at writing it down. I think that's going to lend itself to a lot of complications for a DM, particularly someone starting. And I think as interesting as those points were, and those notions of like what you should kind of do as a DM or how you can encourage this, every one of us is going to find our feet through it. Like that's the I was a railroader extraordinaire. I think I have another idea for an episode, Confessions of a DM.
Oh, nice.
I would just because I'd love to talk about all the things that I've done wrong, and like that I would love to kind of like highlight. I think I'm definitely going to pick up that book. Again, we're not sponsored, and they didn't give us any money to advertise it. Just in case anyone's like, "Jesus, they've been going on about that book for like 20 minutes."
I'll bring it in. Yeah, I think I'm seeing you this month or next month in person, so I'll just bring it along with other stuff that I have here. Because I'd love to have a read of it, and just like that, like we were saying it in the first half, maybe take some bits from it and not take the whole thing. Yeah. I think. Ben, I don't mean to alarm you. Oh no!
But we have accidentally gone over time again, and we still haven't done our Haggany hand.
Do we want to leave it for? We're like way more over than we, even though like it's kind of a bumper because we missed a week. Is a fair way to put it. It's 2 episodes in one. We had the system smash bit. We have the proactive game mastering bit. We're not going to edit it as if it's 2 episodes.
No, we're not. We're lazy.
Please, absolutely not. I'm happy to go on, bring us up to another 23 minutes, bring us up to the 2-hour mark, or leave a Haggany Ant for another day. Leave those little idiots in chat. I say that anyone, if you ever run the D8 channel and you type idiots in, the mod stops you, and I'm forever using it in a playful, enduring way, and I'm always stopped by mods. So.
Emily has an important question. I doubt that it's important, but hit me, Emily, before we wrap up the show.
Shorts. Good question.
I'm wearing pants. I am actually wearing pants because I have a feeling that's what the question is actually going to be now that Ben stood up. But I do want shorts or pants. Ha 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 ha. Actual jeans. Like full-fledged jeans. So I even did a little bit of a kick there. Like I even did a little bit of a kick for flair. I think that's where we're going to wrap it up for this episode. There's a wonderful question for Haggany Ant that we could spend another hour talking about very, very easily. But I would say thank you to everybody who joined us in chat for tonight's episode, because it has been a while since Ben and Declan were on a roll, and we've it's been a while, but I didn't feel rusty.
No,
we talked for 90 minutes, so we're definitely not rusty.
Rust is not keeping it to a tight hour, which we always try. Which is always rusty. One thing I will say, even though, and I know this sounds very hypocritical, because we didn't get to this one, but if you do have a question, please do send it to us, either directly on social media, over on the Discord channel, wherever you can find us. We're easily accessible, and we'll turn it into a Haggany Ant and we'll answer it. When we get enough, we'll probably reach kind of critical mass and do a whole mailbag episode, which are always fun. So please do, if you have any questions, send them our way. We will put the Emily filter on them to filter out for nonsense and rise them to the top.
Oh no. No. I've had an absolute blast this evening, so thank you to everybody who joined us in chat. And Zool44, thank you so much for the nod to that Spren stuff. I'm definitely going to check it out. I think that was really, really cool. So I'm definitely going to take a look at those. So I really, really that's kind of clicked with me a little bit. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can do something with that. But yeah, I'm gonna take us out. But Ben, you've probably got something prepared so that I can get us ready.
Shoot! This is genuinely rusty. I didn't even prepare the ending. I normally do a stupid bit. All I've thought of is in mind. This is where my brain is gone. You can get ready to take us out, or raid, or wherever we're going next.
We're gonna raid.
Nice, cool. Let's raid with this weird energy that I'm about to bring to the stream. So in Irish mythology, you might know of the Tuatha De Danann. They're sort of the old gods that came and became the kind of little folk and fairies. And in modern day internet culture, you might know of Hoctua. And in my brain, it just went to Hoctua De Danann, which is shame on me, I think is the best way to put that. But yeah.
I'm going to take us to the credits.
I think fan art.
I'm going to take us to the credits, but we're also going to raid Euphoria AP. So do stick around. We're going to hop over to their channel and see what they're getting. I think they're streaming a game right now. So thank you for that. We're back in 2 weeks' time. Next Thursday, Random DMs is back on the air. So do look out for that. And I'm just going to say it here very, very quietly because nobody will give out to me. Do keep an eye on our social media and our Discord because we might be opening casting calls for some new games very, very soon. Thank you, Kate. I love you. Bye.